Real NHS interview questions and how to answer them, part 1. Now, if you've been applying for jobs or you've got NHS interviews coming up, whether you're overseas or you're here in the UK, then this video is for you. So how do I know that they're real? Well, for one, I've been to several NHS interviews myself, and I have colleagues and I have friends and I have mentees who go for NHS interviews as well. And when I ask them, they do feedback to me certain questions or the different questions that they have been asked during these interviews. And that's how I get some of the interview questions that I will be sharing with you guys. And that's how I know that they're real questions that have been asked in actual interviews. So I am a sonographer, and I might approach answering these questions from the angle of being a sonographer. But then again, it really doesn't matter, and it can really apply to any healthcare worker or any professional, as a matter of fact. So even if you're a nurse or you're a doctor or you're a biomedical scientist or you're a healthcare assistant or you're even a HR specialist or a manager, this could still apply to you and you could really benefit from this. Okay. All right. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Rajuno. I'm a Nigerian trained sonographer who's working in the UK as a sonographer as well. And on my channel, I like to bring you a lot of tips, a lot of insights, that just help you, achieve your dreams of being a sonographer, a radiographer, or a healthcare worker in the UK, basically. Okay. All right. So let's get right into the purpose of today's video. Real NHS interview questions. Part 1. And in today's video, the question I will specifically be answering or delving into would be, how do you manage difficult situations at work? Now, I've been asked this question before in an interview, and based on the feedback that I've gotten from, my colleagues, they ask this question a lot at NHS interviews. And it's usually under the category of behavioral or situational interview questions. So they are typically designed to assess your past behavior and experiences in specific situations so that the interviewer can try to gauge how you're going to handle similar situations in the future. So there's no hard and fast rule to any question that you ask. You can answer it in diverse or different ways, okay? But there are certain things that must underpin your answer, really. You want to be able to demonstrate, that as a sonographer or a healthcare worker or a professional, generally speaking, managing difficult situations at work requires a combination of effective communication, problem-solving skills, and emotional resilience. So here's how I would approach, a question like this. So if there is a difficult situation at work and I'm involved in it, the first thing that I would do is just to remain calm. Because in difficult situations, it's really important that I stay calm and I stay composed, because that way I'm able to think better, I'm able to think straight. It's usually difficult for me to actually process my thoughts when my emotions are all over the place, and so I actually make it a point of duty to stay calm. Panicking or becoming overwhelmed can just make the situation escalate further. And so I try to stay calm and maintain a positive mindset. So staying calm and maintaining a positive mindset just helps me to approach the situation with more clarity and more focus. And then the second thing that I would do would be to assess the situation. I need to assess the nature and the severity of the situation so that I'm able to determine the right course of action to take. And by the time I'm able to understand the underlying factors that are contributing to the problem, it would help me to formulate a more effective strategy for resolution. And so following on from staying calm with a positive mindset so that I can focus and have some clarity of mind, and then assessing the situation, I'd also do my best to communicate effectively. So clear and open communication is very, very essential in managing any difficult situation, which is why I have to also prioritize, communicating clearly and openly. Now, to do this, I have to actively listen to all the parties involved. And by actively listening, it's not just listening to respond. You're also listening so that you really understand what they're saying. And sometimes you have to repeat after them so that they can confirm to me if I'm getting the actual point that they are saying. I'd have to do that as well. So I want to actively listen to them, and then I want to empathize with their concern. And then especially when it has to do with the patient, right? I would apologize to the patient, just to de-escalate the situation as much as possible. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're at fault or not at that point in time. It wouldn't matter to me whether, I did something wrong or not at that point in time. I'm just apologizing about the service and how they may have felt, and, just to de-escalate the situation. So you can say stuff like, I'm really sorry, that the service is not up to the standard that you are expecting it to be, okay? And then by the time you apologize, de-escalate the situation to that level, then I'm able to, constructively express my perspectives about the case. If I was involved, I can now constructively offer explanations as to why things were done in a certain way and something happened in a certain way. If I wasn't involved, try to explain why a certain colleague did something to this patient, or why another patient may have done something to the patient. Okay, so at the end of the day, the goal is to communicate effectively, transparently, openly, and de-escalate the situation as much as possible. So this is something that I would be prioritizing if I'm faced with a difficult situation at work. So another thing that I would do if I'm faced with a difficult situation at work would be to seek support. I will not be hesitant to seek support from colleagues, to seek support from a manager, from a supervisor, or other, healthcare team members if I'm faced with a difficult situation at work. Because by the time I'm able to partner or collaborate with others, it allows for a collective effort in actually addressing, situations or challenges, and finding a resolution. So if needed, I will seek support as well. Okay, so another thing that I would do if faced with a difficult situation at work would be to approach that situation with a problem solving mindset. So, from the very onset, the moment it's brought to my attention that there is a problem or there's a difficult situation that needs sorting, all I'm thinking about is how can it be solved? I need to analyze the root cause of the problem and then try to brainstorm possible solutions. So instead of moaning about the problem, complaining about the problem, constantly adding to the problem, I would approach difficult situations with a problem solving mindset, finding ways that I can actually contribute to the resolution of the issue and not contribute to it. And then another thing that I would do if faced with a difficult situation at work would be to maintain my professionalism at all times. So regardless of how difficult the situation is, I must maintain my professionalism at every single point in time. Now, maintaining professionalism is in many different ways, okay? Your ability to maintain confidentiality is maintaining professionalism. So if, let's say, the issue is between two patients, for instance, and patient A is talking about patient B and what patient B did and what patient B didn't do, if I get involved and I'm trying to, come to an amicable resolution, it's not my place to start talking about patient B on a personal level or the reason why patient B came to the hospital in the first place, what kind of scan patient B had, and how long they've stayed in the hospital and when they are leaving. All of those things are not important to patient A. And so I must maintain my professionalism at all times where that is concerned. So maintaining your professionalism is also about according respect and dignity to all the parties involved. And that's something you must do regardless of how difficult the situation is. Each party is entitled to be respected and is entitled to their dignity. And then maintaining professionalism is also about adhering or sticking to ethical standards even while dealing with difficult situations at work. And so no matter how difficult the situation at work is, adhering to ethical standards in my decision making and in my conduct is priority, and I must maintain this at all times. So if a patient complains about something, when I'm documenting it, I'm not going to document what the patient did not say. That would be breaching ethical standards to do that. So I'm just going to state what the patient stated. Adding things that the patient did not say in a bid to try to favor one over the other would be wrong, essentially. So maintaining professionalism at all times when I'm dealing with difficult situations at work would be a priority for me as well. Okay, so another thing that I would do when dealing with difficult situations at work would be practicing self-care. Now, this might not be a very conventional answer, but it's something that I would do. And I would do this because difficult situations are generally very emotionally and very mentally draining. And so by practicing some level of self-care, I would be trying to help my mental health to cope with everything that's happening. And so I would prioritize self-care by taking breaks whenever they are needed, by engaging in any stress reducing kind of activities, either during my lunch break or even after work, just engaging in other extracurricular things that can take my mind off difficult situations like this, especially when they're the kind of difficult situations that are not short term, they're pretty much long term and sometimes ongoing. So difficult situations like this, trying to engage in other things outside of work that can help your mental health, it's something that I would prioritize as well. And then even by seeking support from my family and friends, all of these things would be prioritizing my self-care to try to help my mental health and try to help me to manage difficult situations that I might face at work. So in total, I have mentioned 7 key points to include in your answer if you're ever asked how you will manage difficult situations at work. So you would remain calm, you would assess the situation for the severity or the nature of it, you will communicate effectively, you will seek support if needed, you would approach the entire situation with a problem-solving mindset. You will maintain professionalism at all times, and you would practice self-care as much as you can. And all these points are very important to include, in your answer, because what the interviewer, what the employer really wants to know is your ability when there is pressure at work, your ability to remain calm and collected and focused at work. They want to just know if you're able to do that. And by the time you capture that in your response, they have an idea of how you would potentially handle yourself when the pressure is up at work. They also want to know about your interpersonal skills, how you relate with people, whether they're your colleagues, whether they're your patients, whether they're just regular people, in your workplace, how you relate with them. So when you talk about active listening, when you talk about communicating openly and effectively, all those things demonstrate your interpersonal skills, with other colleagues at work or other patients at work. And it gives them some insight, into your capacity to be able to resolve certain issues when they present themselves. And they also definitely want to know your approach to handling situations, difficult situations when they happen. So there's a difference between just handling something and a specific approach to which you handle it. Because people handle situations differently, and there are different approaches to which you can handle something that can either escalate a situation or de-escalate it. And so they want to see the breakdown step-by-step method with which you would approach a situation. Okay. So when you say things like, I would, approach a situation with a problem-solving mindset, they know that you're the kind of person who thinks about solutions and not just whining about problems. When you talk about maintaining professionalism at all times, they know that you realize you're sensitive enough to know that you have to be professional regardless of your dealings, regardless of how difficult the situation is. Okay. So, there are different ways that you can tackle a question when you're asked. There are different things that you can say and how you can say them. But, just like with everything, there are fundamental principles, there are fundamental things that you should infuse into your answer. Things like de-escalating a situation is what they really want to hear. If there's a difficult situation at work, do you do different things that just make the situation worse? Or you do different things that make the situation better, from a general day-to-day point of view, which is why there are different concepts that you must embody in your response. Okay. All right. So if I've missed anything that you can actually add, when you're asked a question like this, please do well to drop it down below. I'm sure there's so many people, even myself, that can learn from this. Okay. Now, in my next video, I'll be answering another popular NHS interview question that I'm aware about, which is, what do you do if you are running late on your list? Now, for those of you who don't really understand it, when we talk about list in the UK, normally you have pre-booked patients for, like in my case, for scans, for ultrasound scans, and also you have like appointments and stuff. So for every appointment, it's a certain amount of time. And sometimes you could be running late in the sense that, if at maybe 11 o'clock, I should be attending to my 5th patient or my 6th patient, and I'm actually attending to my 3rd patient at that time, then I'm actually running late on my list. So they normally ask this in a lot of interview questions when they say, if you're running late on your list, what do you do? So my next video, I will be tackling that. So if today's video was any help to you, was of any value to you, then please do not forget to subscribe, to like, to share, to comment. As these things that you do, they really motivate me. I missed my busy schedule to keep doing this. Okay. And if you need help preparing for your ultrasound interview, it is a service that I provide. I'm going to drop the link below and you can check that out. Okay. All right. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.